Thank you very much, Raymond, and allow me to also thank the previous panelists and the African Union for hosting us, and also to greet the heads of delegation and ministers in the room. I think the challenge of data is fundamental because I think Antonio Pedro said this very well. If you can't prioritize or effectively invest if you are not able to identify the key area for acceleration. And I think one of the most fundamental issues to be addressed around data is the issue of ownership nationally, because data is first generated at the national level. And one of the aspects I think which resonates is when there is a strong plan, and I think one of the examples given was, for example, a water investment plan. I know recently as well, following the climate summit, Kenya has put forward an energy transition or transformation plan. Senegal recently also has their energy transformation plan, and of course we know South Africa, and there are a few other countries that have done so. And if you have a strong plan, then you have something at which to measure against, and you can also identify the gaps where you're not generating data. You already know there is something to be addressed in that area, because you are not generating data, and you need to start somewhere. And I would like to emphasize as well so I think the first element that we should underline is national ownership. National ownership of plans which are specific to sectors, and we've spoken about these SDGs, and national ownership as well of attaining the SDGs and of the link with the Agenda 2063. The second element that I would like to emphasize is leveraging existing processes and using those processes to generate better quality of data, and also ensure that there is a common understanding of the type of data that we want to generate. And here I will build on what Commissioner Muchanga had already said. There are so many different processes that are already happening, and we must make sure that they all bring us back to a common understanding of where we are going. And that is the Agenda 2063 and the Agenda 2030, which are indivisible, in fact, because there are so many common threads towards them. And here we can leverage, for example, the African peer review mechanisms in terms of what are the data that we want to present in those mechanisms and aligning them with the needs. Similarly, we have the voluntary national reviews, where countries are reporting voluntarily on their progress on the SDGs. And again, countries need to be reporting based on data that is generated nationally, but which feeds into regional processes. And I think this is where those elements that I've talked about, voluntary national reviews, the APRM, they must also feed into regional narratives and mechanisms for measuring progress. And of course, central to that is the African Union, but also all of the institutions represented at this table have a role to play in both generating that data, ensuring the credibility of that data, and supporting states to feed data into those processes. And allow me to then just conclude by saying the link between data and resource mobilization, because for me that is the most concerning of all of the elements that have come out from this report, that we are stagnating relative to tax generation relative to GDP. There is a stagnation in that regard. And also that the contribution of domestic resources into budgets are actually declining. And this will definitely this leads to a direct link in terms of the lack of data, because we are obviously not investing sufficiently from domestic resources into the basics of generating data or in the relative sectors. And again, it's either a vicious circle or a virtuous circle. If you have the right starting point, more data will allow you to focus your investments and hopefully then lead to more generation of resources. For example, in energy, if you are able to bridge the energy gap, you will create several multiplier effects, and there is a direct correlation between investing in energy and the mobilization of resources in an economy, the ability to industrialize and therefore generate more resources. But again, if you don't have that starting point, that good starting point of good data, then you are investing blindly, and therefore the multiplier effect is diminished. So let me stop there.